passengers. This is your captain speaking once again. For the last 25 years, we at Cebu Pacific have been enabling everyone to fly. And it has been such an honor to have made a lot of travel moments with you. We have always been known to make the flight experience fun for everyone. And as the skies open once again, let us look back at our 8 shared milestones. What a great day to fly! On March 8, 1996, we made our first maiden voyage from Manila to our hometown Cebu. Then we took off for our first international flight, Manila to Hong Kong on November 22, 2001. Those were great times. Philippines, meet Piso Fair, March 2004. We pioneered the first ever piso sale in the market. These piso sales really made air travel more accessible for everyone. To connect more people across the archipelago, through September 2007 to 2016, we invested in high-capacity ATR turboprop aircrafts to serve islands that can only be reached by smaller planes. In 2013, we received our first and biggest aircraft, the Airbus A330, and sent it to our first long-haul flight from Manila to Dubai. Baby Haven came into this world via 5J015 Dubai to Manila, the first Seb baby born in flight. On our 20th year, we welcomed major changes, our new home, our new uniforms, and a brand new look in the skies. We even partnered with UNICEF for its Change for Good program. And last 2017, we flew our first 150 millionth passenger. Throughout our 25 years, we have celebrated countless wonderful moments with you, our dear passengers. I, your captain, together with Cebu Pacific family, can't wait to bring you back to the beautiful destinations you have missed. We're looking forward to more smiles ahead as everyone flies again.
The lines that connect us have never been this important. From the simple things that give us joy and hope, to the ones we have to accomplish. There is a need to be connected to the things we do and to the people around us. The lack of a future-ready connection is what created us. From a startup in Central Luzon to what we are now, our purpose remains the same: to make everyone's online experience better. From businesses to public institutions to your homes and the entire country, we believe that digitalizing the Philippines empowers the people. We work hard to power micro, small, medium, and large-scale businesses to allow them to maximize their productivity with the latest broadband technology that fits their needs, to better connect them to their audiences and customers.
Because we know the value of what education brings to every Filipino. Together with the Department of Education and local governments, we are connecting schools to teachers and teachers to all their students.
Providing reliable and fast internet. This helps build the future of the youth and the nation.
Converge is empowering every Filipino household as the home becomes the school, the workplace, and the marketplace in one. With its pure fiber connection, Converge offers speed, stability, and reliability to meet the evolving needs of its residential customers.
Providing the best experience for their work from home, online classes, news and information needs, to seamless entertainment consumption, such as social media, movie streaming, music, sports, and gaming. Our customers' experience is at the forefront of our success. Going beyond their connectivity, we lead the way in product innovation, customer response, digital infrastructure, and network improvements.
Because more than the connection, we empower. We empower you, the businesses that fill your needs, and the country's.
We are focused in providing all our customers the best of what the internet has to offer, with true high-speed, pure end-to-end fiber connectivity. And we are making it available to every Filipino. Breaking into an already established industry, it is the passion of our people to bring fresh innovations to Filipinos that sets us apart. The Philippines' need for better internet is evident by our exponential and unrivaled growth,
boosting us to have one of the biggest IPOs in the country,
and transforming us into a world-class broadband provider with the Filipino consumer in mind.
With our unparalleled growth, we set our sights on interconnecting the entire country, now linking Visayas and Mindanao to our domestic fiber backbone. To connect the unserved and underserved areas in the country, this lives in the fiber of how Converge came to be. Knowing how essential connectivity is today and in the future, we're not just making stable connections available to more Filipinos, we are giving them the lifeline they need and deserve.
Now, the way we connect has never been this powerful.
With everything we do in our lives, the world is becoming more and more connected. Converge provides more than just fiber internet. We give the lifeline for a future-ready nation.
It starts with a cause, a purpose, a dream. To do more, to be more. In the face of adversity, do we break down, or should we break through? Should we be different, or strive to make a difference? We rock. We have the power to create a better world, one step at a time. This is our revolution. I'm Juan Miguel Javier, an IT director, a farmer, and a rock star by heart. I am unbreakable.
Here's a warm hello from Eastern Communications. We're here to present a refreshing point of view that when it comes to delivering business communication solutions, it's time to bring back the human connection. As we do all we can to offer technology that is always solid and reliable, we never lose sight of our brand of personalized customer service. It's a connection that is both high-tech and high-touch. That's our strong connection. We are Eastern Communications.
We are an organization intensive in youth, in desires, and in a commitment to take great steps to live the values that unite us. We are a company that listens to a mission and has decided to respond daily to the call. We are Qualphone, establishing a welcoming and respectful workplace that affirms the dignity of each person, fostering the spirituality and unique contributions of each individual through our Mission at Work programs. Communication at Work promotes an open communication based on respect, mutual trust, and understanding of the mission, values, and plans of Qualcomm. Learn at work. Support employees through career development classes. Care at work. Support an environment where the person trusts and support each other in a caring second family manner. But making people's lives better goes beyond employees. It also refers to employees' families and our communications through our Give at Work program. We support charities and establishments that provide assistance to the underprivileged. And fun at work, to keep our employees engaged through fun activities. Our mission is our call, and we share it with you so that our Strides values will be an explicit, concrete, and visible commitment to serve and love others. In order to be the best BPO, we make people's lives better.
At Vivant, we embrace change because we know that to succeed, we need to be a strong partner. A partner who takes the time to listen and provide solutions that benefit everyone. Vivant's growth throughout the energy sector is a testament to our strategic relationship and our ability to adapt to a changing world. As we expand beyond power, our business model of foresight, cooperation, and adaptability will always push us forward. Vivant, solutions for a changing world.
Ako si Arnold Asis, ang may-ari ng Arnet Agrimarts, at ito ang diskarte ko. One-stop shop kami for all gardening and farming needs. Nagbebenta kami ng pots, fertilizers, seeds, and greenhouse materials. Actually, before Lazada, I have to travel a lot to meet distributor kasi kailangan mo silang puntahan para makabenta ka. So, malimit, malayo ako sa pamilya ko. And kailan talaga doble-doble yung effort mo para makabenta ka lang. Actually, hindi rin naman ako techie so wala rin ako masyadong alam sa online. And yun yung maganda kay Lazada kasi marami siyang tools. Nandyan yung Lazada University para lahat ng kailangan mong malaman, madali mong matututunan. And nandyan din yung community of sellers na very much willing tumulong lalo na sa mga bagong sellers. Hindi lang basta nakabawi yung business namin, mas lumaki pa siya ngayon. At kahit mas malaki siya ngayon, mas magaan yung trabaho namin kasi online na lahat. Huwag kayong matakot matuto at sumubok ng bago kasi andyan naman sa Lazada lahat ng kailangan nyo para mag-succeed ang business nyo. Lahat naman siguro tayo nakakapa sa sitwasyon natin ngayon. Pero sa halip na tingnan natin ito bilang problema, maganda siguro, tingnan natin bilang opportunity upang mag-adapt at mag-evolve sa pagpapalaganap ng e-commerce sa Pilipinas. Kasi kung kaya ko, kaya niyo rin.
They don't want. If we get everyone else vaccinated, 70% yung tinatawag na herd immunity, maprotektahan yung 30% na hindi magpabakuna. Oo.
Diyan ang paglaom, sudungang kaugmaon sa kanaw-kanaw. Sugantang pagbangon, dungan natong sugato na bagong adlaw. Karon ang panahon, busa magpabakuna ta. Kini ang pagpanggata sa usab-usab. Padayon usa ka komunidad kontra sa COVID pabakuna. Di na nato dugayo, di na panumbalingon na kabala ka. Dungan natong pandayon ang nangagunom ng mga damputan. Mabalik pa ang tanan kung magkaiyos sa pusa. Magpabakuna ta, hindi ang pagpanggata sa usab-usab. Padayon isa ka komunidad kontra sa COVID pabakuna.
Invite na po ang mga tao nga magpabaksin sila.
I encourage everyone to get vaccinated.
Invite mo tanan nga to take the opportunity to have a vaccine. Free na tanan sa worries or sa anxiety na to sa about this pandemic which is the COVID-19.
The best vaccine is the one that is available.
Diyan ang paglaom, sudungang kaugmaon ta. Higala busa magpabakuna ta.
Now that we have the vaccines here, please do avail of the vaccine to end this pandemic.
At Golden Prince, experience the golden brand of hospitality. Oh, at Golden Prince, you'll always feel the royal pampering reserved for you. Ginawa nung yun, isa Golden Prince Hotel.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Recording in
To formally
progress.
start our program, may I request everyone to pause as we pray for the success of this event, and after which, please stay tuned for the singing of our national anthem.
Let us all bow our heads
and pray, believing in our God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. In Matthew 6, verse 26 to 27, the Lord said, "Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? Can any one of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life?" Our Father, we thank you first and foremost for sending us your Son, Jesus Christ, to save us. Make every one of us truly believe in you, that we may genuinely accept you in our lives as our Lord and our Savior. We also thank you for providing us the technology that we are able to gather together today to discuss how the entrepreneurs will be able to overcome the difficulties in doing business caused by the ongoing pandemic. We pray that you will guide us throughout this activity and that you will be in our midst. We pray for the speakers that they will share clearly to us their wisdom and expertise so that all businesses will be able to adjust and survive. Lord, we believe that nothing is impossible with you. We'll lift up to you all concerns that we have. In your mercy, comfort those who are weary, give peace to those who are troubled, provide those who are in need. Let everything that we do and say be always for your glory and praise. This we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Kayang mag-ibig, pero sa silanganan, alam ng puso, sa dikit mo'y buhay. Upang hinirang, tuyak ka ng mag-ibig, sa manlulupin, di ka pasisingil, sa nagatak tutok sa simoy at sa langit mong bangaw, ay hinatang tula, awit sa pagkayang minamahal. Ang isang ng matawad mo'y tagumpay na nagtitindig, ang bituin at araw niya kailan ang ay magtitindig. Luman ang araw ng warhabing pagsinta, buhay langit sa piling mo. Ang ligaya ng pagkay mga api, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Yes, my name is DJ
And I am Raymond.
and we are the moderators for this afternoon's coffee table discussion. But before we get started, we would like to request to officially welcome this afternoon's coffee table discussion for the welcome address to be given by the President of the Cebu Chamber of Commerce and Industry,
Sir Felix Tagya.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good
Nice
afternoon, sir.
seeing distinguished guest speakers here. As we may all know that we are now starting to open up more of our economy, but someone has to lead. Somehow, some way, we cannot be forever said that we will be on lockdown. The economy will never survive in such a way. Would like to thank all the panelists here, moderator, guest speakers from the ICT BPM industry, which is one of our driving force here in Cebu. would like also to thank you all for being with us today, that to share your precious time and your insights of the industry in the new norm. From the onset, I would like to express our deepest gratitude to our members also who are online, our sponsors that cannot be like we used to be in a conference setting. We see each other face to face, we interact with friends, suppliers, and clients. But under the new norm, we have to adapt. Across the globe, this coronavirus that we are facing forced to change our daily lives, movement, how we do business together, how we work together, how we see each other together. Who would have known that 1 year ago, 18 months ago, to be exact, everywhere we all thriving with the best of the best in business, in tourism. The small and medium enterprises were at its highest. But when the pandemic struck, we all have to adapt. And I'm so happy to say that our ICT BPM industry has adapted and accelerated faster, which was also never in the handbooks of your company programs. We all have to adjust and adapt. Before, we used to hire people on site, front, rear, and everywhere, and everybody goes in one location to see each other. But now, we are adapting, and we also witness the shifting of the face-to-face instructions to online modalities. Infrastructure, internet capability of suppliers. We used only to have a few telcos in the industry, but now it has accelerated to more. And we are all happy to say that if better bandwidth, we are now in the right track under the new norm with the help of the DICT, the NTC, from the government side, bringing more competition, which will hasten the services, the speed of the bandwidth to all of us in the sector. So I would like to say and to give a big thanks also to the government, with the DICT here helping on the infrastructure, with the NTC helping us on the franchise of new players in the industry, which we don't see before. Right now, the SMEs are also joining the bandwagon of going online, because that's the only way that we all can survive in this new norm. We don't want to prolong more of this pandemic, but situation cannot be controlled because of new variants coming in. As what I learned and what we are now experiencing is we all have to get vaccinated, so that we hope in the near future we can readapt our workspace. How we used to go to the offices of ours, how we used to go to work. It may not be like before, but we will adapt redo, reboot, repurpose, and re-enhance our business climate environment. So, to say the least, the chamber, our Cebu chamber, will always be here to help whatever is needed by the ICT BPM sector to bring more investors coming in, as we all know that this is the only sector, even during the pandemic, while other industries are laying off, shutting down factories or stores, but our industry was so resilient that we are still hiring under the protocols of our new norm. So together, I am so happy to say also that with our Vice President Mike Cubus and together with his team of the CBM 2021, with the tagline Rise Forward. CBM is on the 25th year running now, and it has also evolved a lot. From Cebu Business Day 25 years ago, it became a Cebu Business Week, and it became a whole week, a whole month of activities. But under this new norm, we have also to change the program, and we are doing it. It's now called the Cebu Business Month or Cebu Business Mobility, where we are now stretching the program into a whole year program. As what I said a while ago, the face-to-face thing in a conference is something that we have to see in the future coming. But right now, when we started all of this, everything was online. But we are trying to readapt the situation of going into hybrid conference, like what we are doing now. The chamber always takes the lead. We will use this as a sample so that in a saying, we have to live with COVID. We should know how to help each other. We need the work safe protocol, as what in the industry is now doing. You're doing a lot of changes, which is very good. You are redesigning your workspace with cubicles, with acrylic plastics, if I'm not wrong. So it's nice to know that going forward, rest assured that the Cebu Chamber of Commerce, together with our CBM team, is here to listen and hear the industry players on how you were able to adapt to the new norm. And in the future, we hope we can improve more and have more employment for the city of Cebu. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sir Felix, for that informative and inspiring welcome address. It's nice to know that with the support of the Chamber, together the ICT BPM industry will continue to rise forward.
And this afternoon, we will have more idea on how to do that, on how we can rise forward. And this is just a portion of what the Cebu Chamber of Commerce intend to do. And to explain further the rationale why we are having this forum this afternoon is...
She is currently our CBM 2021 ICT BPM chairperson and the Director for Community Relations of Qualphone Philippines Incorporated. My mentor, Ms. Jocelyn Cannon.
Thank you. Good afternoon, maayong hapon sa tanan. So 2020 has been a year of unimaginable disruption and tremendous change for many, with almost all industries trying to cope with the aftermath of COVID-19. So despite COVID-19 pandemic transforming a lot of industries, the ICT BPM industry has sustained its operations, adapting to change, and still remains to be one of the key economic drivers in Cebu. So the Cebu Chamber of Commerce Incorporated's flagship project, Cebu Business Month, now Cebu Business Year, Sir Phil? With this year's theme, Rise Forward, is organizing the CBM 2021 ICT BPM Coffee Table Discussion to gather industry stakeholders and government line agencies for an engaging and open or free-flowing discussion together with the community. So we actually started having this coffee table discussion last year. And the idea is to make this as open and candid as possible, with a discussion between friends, and to hopefully springboard from this session what's going to be the topic that we ought to craft for the CBM Summit or the ICT BPM Summit in August. So without further ado, I would like to invite our friends here, colleagues, our esteemed guests, to, well, we understand that there's going to be information that we cannot share because of confidentiality reasons. There could be topics that may be sensitive also to discuss here today. But as I've mentioned during the press conference for Cebu Business Month or Cebu Business Year 2021, this is actually a far cry of, the government support, further support for the industry, especially in terms of technology and telco, and that's why we invited you here, sir, and also Sir Rick, and the industry partners. So it can also be, a point of reference for others who may also be struggling compared to us, how we did it, how we came through since 2020 and now in 2021. So with that, thank you very much and good afternoon.
Thank you. Will it be perfectly fine if I will address you as Joey?
Yes, please.
Yeah, Siga, thank you, Joey. So I think it's a good start also in terms of setting expectation, because you mentioned earlier that this is like a conversation among friends.
Yes.
And we have here friends coming from the industry and also from the government. So this must be the best time for us to introduce who these friends and our new friends are.
All right, to introduce our first panelist. He put his 10-year experience in BPO industry to the next level by setting up Performance 360 Global Services in 2010, which offers multi-channel support, contact center services, virtual assistants, ESL and web development for businesses and companies abroad by utilizing cost-effective and dedicated outsourced service programs. He is among the few Filipinos call center owners that has braved the business processing outsourcing industry, which are dominated by foreign companies. His advocacy is to inspire Filipinos to run their own community-based IT BPO and create jobs to the towns and the countryside. He was an awardee of the 2016 Top Outstanding Cebuano Award, or TOCA, in the field of entrepreneurship, co-chairman of Cebu Business Month 2017 Cebu Digital Innovation Summit, and the former president of the Innovation Council of Cebu, CBM 2020 overall chairman, and currently one of the board of trustees of the Cebu Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and the vice president for Cebu Business Mobilization. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Mr. Michael Cubos.
Thank you very much for the introduction. So, well, I'd just like to say a few words so we can engage more in a really fruitful conversation. So I'm very happy, first of all, that we have this hybrid setup. I know that there are a lot of challenges, but this can serve as a model, no? And how, on a way, as a way forward. In fact, there was there's this group also that I'm part of, that they call this that living with COVID, doing business with COVID, with COVID around. No? So again, I'm very happy to be here and to learn as well. For me and my company, our advocacy is really on countryside development. It is my passion to bring the opportunities to the countryside. It is my advocacy to really bring those opportunities where the talents are. I believe most of I don't have the numbers, I think Boss Bert has the right number with the number of call center employees that are from the province. So I think from the last figures that I got before a few years ago, is that majority are not from Cebu City. So they're from outside Cebu City and most especially from the province. So if that's the case, then it is also, that's why it became my advocacy to also go to where the talents are and also jumpstart the growth in the economy. I remember the time when I put up my, so my first office was in Davao City. Then I started venturing into the countryside. Cordova is not really countryside, no, but but it's kind of about 17 kilometers to 20 kilometers from capital. But I noticed that after I put up, before I put up my office, I was the only company that's open after 10 o'clock. It was so dark, and I fear for my employees that they have to come late at night. It's very hard to get transport, and so I was worried that this will not be sustainable. But later on, something really interesting happened. A carinderia opened 24/7. Then another one, a bake shop opened 24/7. Then eventually, the pedicabs became 24/7 too, like the tricycle. And then the habal-habal they're also there. Those who were not able to open 24/7 opened early, very early in the morning at 4 o'clock, 4 a.m. So what does that mean? What's the lesson there? So I think the lesson there, the ICT BPM is really an economic jump starter. So that's why, and this has been proven during at the start of the pandemic, no? One of the very few industries who are still working and kept the economy moving is really the ICT BPM. And it is these people employed in the ICT BPM that are able to also buy in the market, in the mercados. Because that time there were no work. So nobody is trying to buy anything in the market. There are very few. So there are no vendors. Vendors will not buy from the farmers. They will not buy from the fishermen. But because of these, the call center agents employed in the ICT BPM, they have a little bit of high purchasing power, right? So they are able to sustain and go to the groceries, buy in the market, things like that. And even sustained the hotel, the hotel business because the employees are housed in the fund. So that's just the things that I'm really thankful in this industry. And I think that's all, and I'd like to hear more from our short. I thought it's short.
So that wraps up our discussion. Sorry. No, but anyway, thank you, Mike. If your advocacy has something to do with countryside development, our next member of the panel also has an advocacy, this time in making Cebu more globally competitive. So he is a co-founder, president, chairman of Auxilio Professionals, a BPO, KPO company, and is currently the president and trustee of Cebu IT BPM organization, or CIB.O. So friends online, and along with our friends here in the panel, let's welcome Mr. Bert Cabatanya.
Thank you, DJ, and thank you, Mike. Thank you, Felix, for inviting me to this coffee table discussion, you call it. Although I told Raymond that I prefer it to be a beer session, which is happens to be my favorite drink, and it shows, di ba? Yeah, just to add to what Mike had indicated, it is true that the industry, the ICT BPM, has been a main pillar of the economy of Cebu. It has been pointed out, I think, years ago that in Cebu there are like 3 or 4 pillars, one of which is tourism, the other is manufacturing, ICT, and then the entrepreneurship. Is it the 4th, if I'm not mistaken? So ICT BPM has been there as one of the pillars, and it continues to be one of the pillars even during these difficult times. And in our case, in our organization, CIB.O, we'd like to believe that we've gone beyond the mere survival stage already of the pandemic. We are looking ahead, way ahead, and what to do now to make sure that that ahead, that future, will be there for us to reach. And specifically, based on our conference last week, we have focused on the theme of next level play, okay? Which means that, like I said, beyond survival, beyond mere coping with the pandemic, we have to do something to ensure the growth of the industry, especially because, from what I can see, the industry has already reached the second slow growth stage. I made a presentation last week about the S-curve. I look at the S-curve as our enemy of the industry. What does that mean? Well, in a typical industry, any technology, any business, we are all governed by the S-curve, which means that we all start slow. And in the case of ICT BPM, that happened to us 2000 to 2005, when the industry was just starting. Then it experienced an acceleration of growth. 2010, when the growth reached as high as 30 to 50%, very high, breakneck speed. And that was the boom time for Cebu, okay? Real estate here, real estate malls here, malls there, all the support industries, the multipliers mushroom as a result of the 30 to 50% growth of the industry. But then, when we reached 2010 to 2016, there's a little bit of a slowdown. From the 30 to 50% growth of the years past, we're now seeing 10 to 15%. Still relatively high, 10 to 15%, compared to the economy, which was growing only about 5 to 7%. So still relatively high, faster than the economy, but then that's already the start of a slowdown. And then when you look further beyond 2016, go to 17, 18, 19, further slowdown. The Everest Group has forecasted the industry to be growing 3 to 7% at first. No? And this was way back in 2019. They were looking at 2020 to 2022. And they said, we forecast this industry to grow 3 to 7%. But very quickly, just a few months later, early part of 2020, before the pandemic, they revised it downward, saying this industry would grow 3 to 5%. Now, what was the reality? 2020 passed, and the reality is we grew only about 1.47%. Really slow. And a big part of that, of course, is the pandemic. The whole world slowed down. So our industry also slowed down. But then, even without the pandemic, we were already starting to see the indicators of the second slow growth stage that I talk about. And that's natural, perfectly natural. We just have to recognize that. And having recognized that, then we have to take the deliberate steps to counteract that slow growth stage. And how do we do that? Then the 3 weapons that we are deploying in the CIB.O. One, of course, is innovation and ecosystem development. Second is what we call the Strat 8 committees. And then third is the, I forgot, what was the third? Third is, we'll come back to that later. There are 3 weapons that we are deploying, and the most important of which is the innovation part. because if I were to relate this to the other industries, no, I am fortunate to have experienced other industries before ICT BPM. I used to work for a semiconductor company. That's why I worked for Philips before. I worked for Fairchild. And if you look at the Philippine electronics and semiconductor export, you see the same pattern. It grew very fast in the 1990s. Then 2000, 2010, fluctuation na lang within the range of 30 to 40 billion dollars per year. 30 to 40 billion, very wide fluctuation, but basically plateau. Now, up to 2010, 2020. Meanwhile, from 2010 to 2020, you saw Vietnam. What happened to Vietnam? Vietnam exploded from $20 billion a year. Electronics, I'm talking only about electronics, from $20 billion to $100 billion. So Vietnam electronics industry doubled compared to the Philippines in just a matter of 10 years, while the Philippine electronics is just plateau. And that's what happens when you don't do anything to counteract the natural tendency to plateau in the second slow growth stage. So what we're advocating in our organization is innovation, 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 and ecosystem development in order to ensure that the industry will grow beyond 7%. No? And we have to beat the Everest forecast. So that's our target. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sir Per. That was really informative. And I think with those companies belonging to the ICT BPO industry, we must really step up in making sure that we innovate our business operations. Our next friend here, our next panelist, she has been in the industry for almost 20 years, and 15 years of that was spent in her current company. She held various leadership roles in the areas of human resources, general administration, and overall operations. She's very passionate as a mission leader and are committed to its company's mission, that is be the best, make each person's life better. She's currently the Community Relations Director of Qualphone Philippines Incorporated and is responsible to external affairs of the company, mainly fostering strategic partnership with government institutions and non-government institutions. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you Ms. Jocelyn Cannon.
Thank you, Raymond. I did not expect that, and I thought I was done with the rationale, and then it dawned on me when you mentioned she, and I tried looking around if there's another she amongst the panelists. But anyways, I'd like to piggyback with what Bert has mentioned earlier. He mentioned about innovation and then the creation of the ecosystem. It is very timely because this year's CBM's theme is actually Rise Forward. And each of the committee under the CBM has created an acronym of the word RISE. So RISE for the ICT and BPM sector means R for Revolutionize, I for Inclusion, which actually fits to the creation of ecosystem, and then S for Solidarity. And why solidarity? As we were discussing and conceptualizing of the theme, we thought that we couldn't have moved forward. We couldn't have, we couldn't have gone through 2020 if not for solidarity between other companies, and I wouldn't even say BPOs only, but with other industries, really other industries. And I can say that because I experienced it myself, having to call every network I have in my phone book, from asking help for our work at home setup because borders were closed, and how can we have a work at home setup when employees do not have computers, when they don't have headsets, I can remember calling people, asking them, okay, when our team was in the office, they used to share computers, like 1:3 or 1:2, and then with having them work from home, they have to have one each. And then and stores were closed, warehouses were closed. Imagine that. So it was through solidarity that we were able to move forward. And then E for, help me, Mike. E for
Empower.
Empower. Because as mentioned earlier, and this could be a strong call out, and this could be a strong message to the rest of the community to come together, feel empowered. And this message also goes to every ICT and BPM employees out there to feel proud of where you are connected right now, and to the call center agents that you are one. You are key to actually on why the economy is still alive until now. To the industry leaders, our industry is key to why we are still alive. The economy is alive, and as Mike mentioned, it's actually a springboard to every other industry out there. The hotel industry operation continued even with the pandemic, even when there was no tourists last year. The transportation sector continued because they were transporting call center or contact center employees back and forth last year. And so with the food industry, who closed their shops, closed their restaurants, because they were providing meals for our employees. So there you go. And the call out was, you may quote me on this, this is a strong call out to our government partners to strengthen the support for the industry, and to strengthen means to actually show it in its real sense of the word. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you also, Joey, for those interesting points, specifically on how we can rise forward. And part of that is also on what Bert mentioned, which is on ecosystem development. And speaking of ecosystem development, our next friend or member of the panel is somebody with a background of one of the world's largest tech companies, a total of 15 years experience in the industry, and he moved to the Philippines in 2018 to establish and grow Aventia Philippines Inc. as a center of excellence in the Aventia Group. And prior to Aventia, he worked in different roles around Europe, India, and China. He's also an active board member of several organizations. So ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the operations manager and board member of Aventia Philippines Incorporated, Ross Bowden Lofgren.
Thank you for the introduction, Felix. And I'm honored to be here, and I'm happy to hear I'm in good company with dear friends as well. And to bring my experiences from a company dealing in e-commerce that has actually done quite well during the pandemic. But with that comes other challenges as well, of course. Right. And with that, let's go into the discussion.
All right, so we are now done with introducing the panelists for representing the ICT BPM industries. We now move forward to our representatives from the government sector. To start off, let me introduce to you our regional director for the Department of Information and Communications Technology, and is currently the Technology Visayas Cluster 2. So he has been with the government since 2002, starting as an information systems analyst at the then National Computer Center. His desire to enable ICT in the countryside allowed him to work with several organizations, whether it be local or international. He is very passionate in helping the startup community and has been notably active in the Rural Impact Sourcing Program. Friends, Director Frederick D.C. Amores.
Good afternoon. It's nice to be back here in this new normal situation. I think I have always attended all the conferences of the Cebu Chamber in the past, and with Cebu as well. But this time, this is quite unique. This is the first time of actually hybrid environment like this. No? So I'm very happy that we got invited to be part of this coffee table discussion to present also the side of government in what we can do. No? And I do understand the pain points of the private sector, and we try to do our best in the ICT to address that. And maybe later on I can speak about some of the initiatives that we have in terms of addressing some of those pain points. No? But I do believe that it's always a strong partnership between the government and the private sector that will really move us forward. No? And as our theme, Rise Forward, talks about, I think this is a good start to have this kind of discussion in forum. So that being said, maybe we can continue in a while after all the panelists have been introduced and have spoken. So again, I'm very thankful that the ICT is given a voice in this discussion, and I look forward to our discussion on how we can collaborate and solve some of the challenges that we face in the industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. No? So Rise Forward, as we mentioned, is a collaboration between the industry and also the government. And speaking of the government, we also have a second member of the panel who is part of the government this time. He is part of the National Telecommunications Commission in Region 7. So he's a member of the Philippine Society of Mechanical Engineer. He's part of the Integrated Bar of the Philippines and has a Master's of Management from the University of the Philippines. So let's welcome Attorney Alan Felix Macaraya Jr.
Good afternoon. I'm very honored and thankful to be here. No? Having face-to-face with the industry players. No? In this, I think we could hear the sides of the industry players so that we could recalibrate and refocus our regulatory function. So, with much ado, I would like to end this so as we could continue with the table discussion, coffee table discussion.
Thank you, Attorney Alan. Okay, so as we set the expectation earlier, so this conversation over coffee has two parts. The first part has something to do with the current challenges and also the moving forward initiatives coming from the industry. And the second part is we would also be hearing more about the response coming from the government sector. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we cannot chime in on the discussion which side of the panel we are in. So because this is a coffee conversation among friends, so we can actually chime in if we need to, and we can also raise questions just in case we have. So Raymond?
Before we get into the discussion part, this event would not have been possible without the support of our various sponsors. So let me acknowledge all of them. To start with our Omnibus Platinum sponsors, we have Cebu Pacific Air, Converge ICT Solutions Inc., PLDT Enterprise, Ride Hero.
And yes, for our gold sponsors, we have Eastern Communications, Qualphone Philippines, Vivant Energy Corporation.
For our silver sponsors, we have Ayala Land Inc., Cebu Holdings Inc., Lazada Philippines, Ramon Aboitiz Foundation Inc., and Security Bank Corporation.
And we also have our event sponsor, and that's Lexmark Research and Development, and our hotel partner, right where we are today, that's Golden Prince Hotel.
And special thanks and mention as well to Chunishi, Technical Services Philippines Inc., and RMA News. All right, let's get this started.
Yes, let's get this started. So let's start with the first part of the panel discussion, and it has something to do with the perspective coming from the industry. So I would direct this question to both Ross and also Joey. So how has been your respective companies going 1 year into the pandemic? So how has your operation been now?
All right, so me and Joey come from two very different companies. You're a big established company. We recently started operation. We have a headcount of 60, and we have grown much of that during the pandemic, which was not what we planned for. As I mentioned before, we deal in e-com services, so it's been very good business-wise, commercially, but expanding with personnel in this context has been, I would say it hasn't been an issue from a technological standpoint, but more from a social one. Because when you get people together, you need to create the social glue. You need to create real connections, you need to create a shared vision and goal and make everyone work towards that point. So our main challenge has definitely been the social glue and how to make people sympathize with the company's vision. Because when you sit at home, you could, in principle, be working for any company. Because your colleagues are faces on the screen, and you do the work that you could do for any company. So that's been our main challenge.
Before we move into Joanne, I just need some clarification. Are the whole 60 workforce that you have right now on site, or are they largely working from home? And then we can go back to that later.
Right, so during the ECQ, everyone very quickly had to move to a work from home situation. After that, we have slowly adapted to go back. So today we have what we call a voluntary work from home.
Okay.
If ever there's any reason for you personally or for your dependents or any reason that you could ever think of, just stay at home and work from home. But the office is open, and we usually have about 50% attendance in the office.
Thank you, Russ.
So Qualfon is, I would say, a medium-sized BPO as compared to our competitors. So I remember prior to the pandemic, we had our leadership summit in Mexico. And towards the end of our summit, it was timely when the news of the pandemic rising everywhere broke out. So our leadership summit actually ended with the chairman and founder of the company saying, just imagine having a summit and you have all this forecast of financials and all that, and then ending the summit saying, it's okay if after the end of the year we will break even, or it's okay even if we go below our margin. The priority is save everybody's jobs, and that's actually what happened. In the beginning, we didn't know how to do it because we had a travel and tour account, and we experienced a huge reduction. And lo and behold, we actually gained more clients, more than we could have ever gained for the last 10 years in the company. So the displaced workers or the displaced team members from this account were actually moved to a new account, to new accounts coming in, and we indeed were able to save everybody's jobs. We not only saved everybody's jobs, but we also we increased our headcounts. It is not to say that it wasn't challenging. It was very challenging, and I just need to clarify this because our audience might be thinking, oh, you must have a lot of margin because of the mentioned growth, right? Imagine we started housing employees or team members since March of 2020, and we just ended our contract with our two partner hotels, one being Golden Prince, just this quarter. So over 1 year. And we were providing our team members 3 meals per day. So, and these team members were those employees who were not able to go home because they were from another province, and they said they better stay here in Cebu than going home to their respective places with no internet connection, or very, very weak internet connection, because otherwise they will be going home without a job, without an income, and how can they feed their family? So we are talking about more or less 1,000 employees we were housing in the hotels. A thousand employees we were transporting back and forth the hotel and then to our site in IT Park. And also for the rest of those we sent home for work at home setup, we were also providing them individual routers. In fact, up until today, we still have complaints like, this network doesn't work in our place. Can I have a network change? So we had to go through that aspect. And another challenge this year is asset recovery, because we also have attrition. And well, we are not in an ideal world. Assets were also were not returned. So that's another challenge.
I want to ask Sir Pert and Ms. Joey maybe, with this pandemic, how do you think this will further change the ICT BPM industry?
Okay, my personal opinion, based on my understanding of the behavior of COVID-19, this kind of situation may extend a few more years, all right? Especially because, number one, our vaccination is very slow, number one. Number two, even if we reach the 70% vaccination, there is still no data to tell us that the vaccination is effective indefinitely for life. It may likely be effective only for 1 year or less or more. We don't know that yet. Therefore, there is that one big question. Now, with that one big question, then we have to make this assumption as an industry manager that very likely our setup will continue, and I think it will continue for at least 2 years minimum, maybe 5 years, maybe more, right? So in response to the question, how will it change? It will change the way we operate almost permanently. I've heard some numbers. Well, there's a few companies that operate 100% on-site, meaning in the office. There's a few companies also that operate 100% from home. There's a few of them. But overall, if you look at the overall numbers, what we're seeing is from 65 to 70% of the ICT BPM employees will be working from home. So that's one big change in the setup that we have to deal with as industry managers. And given that, then therefore, we have to work with the telco, and we have been working with the telco to make sure, and in response to what Jocelyn has also requested, demanded, for lines to be available all over. We're telling the telcos, be out there, out of the problem. And this is also one of our advocacy, as an organization, we have this advocacy to push business out of the city into the countryside. And there's a pragmatic reason for that. And there's also the medical reason. The medical reason is the more congested the place is, the higher the transmission. Yeah. So to reduce the probability of transmission, you have to decongest the city. That's one. Number two, even before the pandemic, the congestion level in Cebu, and I'm talking about traffic condition, was so bad that it became a disincentive to new investment. Therefore, if we want to attract more investors, not only will we have to demonstrate our own innovativeness in terms of the product and service, but we also have to show the investor that it's efficient to be here, fast transportation, easy to move around, and telcos all over the place. So, yeah, in short, I expect us to be operating more this way in the next 5 years at least.
Okay, so yes, it looks like it's an expectation setting, no? for us in the industry. And we also have questions coming from our viewers, but before Raymond start asking one of those questions, I can see that there's an overall theme around work from home. So before probably Raymond would ask that question, because Pert also mentioned about the decongestion, and part of that is really work from home. So I'd like to ask, maybe perhaps Mike, Ross, and Joey can actually share to us your current on-site and work from home ratio. And then, there's a reason why we're asking that question, by the way. Don't worry.
Well, for me, actually my company started way back 2010 as 100% online. So we were that set up for a year. And then eventually we encountered a client that is really big. So they want something that is more secure, especially in terms of data management. So that's why we started our first office, physical office in Davao. Now the pandemic happened. Actually, I already know what to do because I know how to, we've been there before, that was our setup before, and I know what needs to be done. So during the pandemic, it's 100%. Prior to the middle of, last quarter of 2020, we started moving them back to the office. And now we have, I think, almost 50% are work from home, and the rest are in the office. If people are not able to, because I don't want anyone to, even if they feel something, no, sipon lang, I don't want them to be in the office. So I want them to work at home. So I think also with regards to the work from home, personally in my company, that is the new road that we're heading. Although I feel bad, no, for my friends who has invested in infrastructure, but that's one of the reality that must be faced, especially now that the technology is here. Although the backbone of that is still a work in progress, but I think as what Bert mentioned, that is really going to be the direction in the industries, especially that the technology is stabilizing to support that kind of environment. There are already certain tools and systems that makes work from home efficient even for voice accounts. I doubt with financial accounts, no, because there are certain certifications that needs to be met, especially in a physical setup. So yeah.
Ross, thank you, Mike. Ross.
Right. So as mentioned before, we have about 50%. But this is a rolling schedule, so it's not half the staff that stays at home and half that stays in the office. But the office is open, and some people prefer to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule, and so on. That's right. We always been using laptops, so mobility in that sense has never been a problem. Before the pandemic started, we had the option to work anywhere using laptops. However, going back to mobility, our original plan when we established ourselves here was always to have an exchange between our European offices and the Filipino operation. And that's something we obviously haven't been able to do. When we work with vaccines or look at vaccines now, our strategy is to get vaccines that will enable movement between Sweden, Europe, and the Philippines. Unfortunately, the border has been closed now. I don't know how long it will be closed, but with the right vaccines and with new policies, we hope that borders can open up again so we can exchange IDs and personnel.
Thank you, Russ. And finally, Joey, before Raymond asks Is question specific
We
to
have a
work from
couple of
home?
questions from our
There's a lot,
audience
actually.
online.
Yeah.
We are between 30 to 40% back in the office, and most of those who are in the office or on site are the new hires, because prior to the pandemic, the challenge has always been there, especially with the trainees, and then the learning curve, and then we had to go through that challenge and opportunities through the pandemic, and then we thought, okay, we needed to bring back, we needed to start training again on site. But and the reason why we kept it at a minimum, we could have gone a little higher, say 50%, but we reached we came to an agreement to limit the percentage to that level in preparation for when, God forbid, there might be another lockdown or another ECQ.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Joey. We have a question here from our audience online. First, I think it has something to do with the quality of the infrastructure that we have supporting this industry. Question, with the shift to work from home workforce, what IT or internet infrastructure challenges did you encounter? Was this expected in line with the work from home challenges the workforce has traditionally experienced? I think our panelists as well can from the government side, can maybe share their input on this particular question, if this is something that's anticipated from our partners from the government.
Actually, when COVID-19 started, we were caught unaware of the magnanimity of the problem. First, we have to consider the resources. Are our systems enough for the needs of the people? For example, we have to consider the needs of the people who is working from home, like the ICT BPM. Second, we also need to consider the online distance learning. Is there enough that we could provide them with the best solution to their problems? That's the problem. Actually, we are facing maybe 3 to 4 fronts at the same time. We are facing a battle 3 to 4 fronts. We have to reconsider each and every problem and find a very viable solution. Okay? What NTC did is, for example, we have a memorandum circular regarding value-added services. What is a value-added service? A value-added service is like operating a mini telecommunication company without the need of a franchise. Okay, that's the last mile solution to the internet problem. Because in the Philippines, if we could see geographically, we are at a disadvantage because we are an archipelago. No, you have to invest so much to reach to a certain point. For example, if we are living here in Cebu and maybe a town or municipality 30 or 40 kilometers away from us, which the telecommunication companies could no longer reach. What the value-added service circular provides that an individual could invest in that certain municipality or in that certain place, so that he could act as a telecommunication industry at a limited scale. So, for example, there are, in one barrio, there are 5 houses. Naturally, a telecommunication company will never invest or build a specific tower for that kind of one because it's impractical. Technically, you are losing if you are investing there. You will build a tower which will cost around 1 million to 3 million, but your subscribers are 3 to 5 people. That's impractical and very expensive. So what the National Telecommunications did is to ease the regulations to allow other local players so that they will be operating as a telecommunication companies without a franchise, but on a limited scale. So that's how we go about it, particularly on solving the problem of online distance learning. No? So we ease the law that regulates the value-added services. No? Second is, we make do of what we have. No? For example, a cable company. Technically, a cable company can also provide internet solutions. But they have to apply for a specific license from us. So what we did is to at least make it simpler or flex the requirements. So at least if they want to apply and they want to provide internet service to their community, they can, no? In addition to the existing telecommunication companies. Because the way we see it is like this. No? The product is there. But the way to distribute the product is not enough. The system is not enough, the lines. So we need to reinvent, innovate, and give other a chance, no, to at least distribute these products if possible. So that's how we look at the challenges, and that is how we answer the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Okay, in terms of the actual infrastructure itself, no, one of the challenges we face is that the way the industry, especially the infrastructure prior to the pandemic was, it was really concentrated in the urban areas, no, for where the business parks are, the IT parks are. With the advent of COVID, there was a sudden shift, almost overnight, that from the offices like here in Cebu in particular, if we take the discussion in that context, from the IT park to business park, you shift it to the residential areas, of which the focus of the telcos probably was not in that area, and maybe unless it's a high-end subdivision where, you know, people were subscribing to a high-capacity internet. But for regular households, that might be the priority expense. So with that sudden shift, and I understand from what I've read in some papers, it's like 30% transferred almost overnight. And that's difficult from an infrastructure point of view. Even us in the ICT, we have actually infrastructure projects. And our challenge are, we have so much delays in infrastructure because there are restrictions of local government from them going in. So it's not like we're exempted from, from that. Our contractors still have to do quarantine. In fact, we have some problems in which our contractor is complaining because they will have to pay their employees if they go enter a province or LGU, because some were putting in 10-day quarantine before they can do so. So there's a lot of unexpected costs, and some contractors really became delayed, and they suffered from liquidated damages from failure to provide this. But the upside, if we can find an upside to COVID, is that it has also spurred government, and I think even the private sector, to be more digital. Prior to COVID, every time we have a meeting, we always fly to Manila, elsewhere. But for the past year, we have survived on having Zoom meetings and all that. So I guess in the part of government, we have tremendous savings in terms of food. So you know, the food that you have for meetings, and of course the travel. But of course, that would have an impact on the tourism industry, the accommodation, hospitality businesses. So on the part of the ICT, for example, we're trying to come up with mechanisms to alleviate the problem of connectivity. Number one, by having intervention, because as mentioned earlier, there are places really that the private sector will have a hard time, you know, considering putting their investment in, because it doesn't make sense. We have to understand that, and that's what I've told my colleagues in the office. We were bidding out, for example, Wi-Fi in a particular town in Samar, and the project, the implementation was 600,000, and we could never get any bidders to bid on it. And finally, when my staff kept on, sir, we really cannot bid this. There's no one interested. Then when we analyzed it, because when I looked at the actual cost of building what we were supposed to bid out, there was no infra, so whoever will win it, they'll have to build the infra, and the infra will cost about 7 million. So who in his right mind will bid on a 600,000 project wherein the investment will be 7 million and the contract is for 1 year? So no one in his right mind, no business will do that. So that's the areas where government should intervene. So one way we're intervening is probably to increase the market potential of the place. For example, if the ICT will contract to a telco that we will have a guaranteed contract to provide connectivity for this amount, or say 5 million, 6 million, 7 million annually, that can be the base demand in that location, and other entities can come in. So the government can be a parang primer to allocation to develop. No? And especially now with the demand for work at home, even in the countryside, I think that's a good incentive for the telcos to expand beyond the traditional locations like in the urban areas and all that. So I'm very glad actually, because I have gotten reports that the telcos are expanding outside the cities already. It may not be as fast as we want, but I think it's getting there. And the fact that there are now more players in the market, especially in the recent months, that have rolled out their infrastructure, I think that's pretty good for the industry, especially particularly here in Cebu. No? I know like the presence of Converge, even Dito, and of course even the dominant players like PLDT and Globe or Smart are also rolling out their infrastructure. So I think the combination of incentives or motivation in terms of actual contracts from the government, especially because government also demands a lot of bandwidth right now. Most government offices are also either running partially work from home or are doing a lot of Zoom meetings among themselves. So that itself is a big demand for connectivity. And that's also one reason why government is also intervening by building our own network as well to provide for our services, so we do not eat into the bandwidth that's allocated by for the private sector, for the market. So we can help decongest, like the traffic. If we remove the traffic from the public bandwidth available to telcos, that would also help, I guess, free up connectivity.
Thank you so much, Sir Perth.
In addition to that, during this pandemic, the government realized that the problem areas or the choke points, why we are so left behind by our neighbors with respect to infrastructure, telecommunication infrastructure. The first thing that the government realized is that there is a lot of red tape. When you build a specific tower, there are many requirements. If I'm not mistaken, before I think I have seen one, maybe a long bond paper, or maybe 50 plus or 30 plus requirements. So that's why it is very difficult to build a tower. What the government did is to cut the red tape. Before you can construct a tower, you need at least 200 days. That's the minimum. That's the minimum period of time to get all the requirements, the permits. So they have at least slashed it, maybe more than a half. So the government figured out that if they could lower that to a very minimum level, they could fast track the infrastructure projects, like the building. As of today, I think they are considering to cut it at least 16 days minimum, to cut the processing time for at least 16 days.
From almost 7 months.
From almost 200 days. Yeah. That's the one. Then, in addition to that, the government also realizes there are trifecta of factors. One is the red tape, the long process of getting the permits, the securing of authorizations. That prolongs the infrastructure problem. Second is there are certain areas wherein the population is against building a specific tower because in their own opinion, in their own research, it poses a health hazard, which in truth and in fact, the World Health Organization has already issued an opinion on that. No? Technically, a tower is very safe. It's much safer than an AM station radio. Third, and this is probably I think we have to consider if Cebu, Mandawi, or Lapu-Lapu, they will have to enact an ordinance. For example, they should limit or regulate the rental rate of building a tower. What I'm referring to is some telecommunication companies are interested in putting a tower in a certain building to maximize their coverage. But the problem is the owner of that building will ask 200,000, 300, and that's no longer viable. Yes, that's one of the problem, the financial problem. I think the government needs to enact an ordinance to at least regulate so that we could maximize the potential of building that infrastructure. So, because in 5G, for example, in a 5G setting, the infrastructure towers are very close, very close. They are not that, unlike 3G, they could, how many meters? In 5G, they are very close. You're like planting rice. So we need, that's how, because it's so fast, it requires so close, a very close range. So if the government could enact an ordinance like that to regulate that kind of problem, maybe limit the prices of leasing a building or an infrastructure to install a tower, at least it could spur up the number of towers, and I think that's a very viable and acceptable law that the city or the province could enact so that it could help with the growth of the telecom industry.
Attorney, has there been a dialogue organized between the telcos and these landowners or building owners together with the LGUs on this specific opportunity?
We have encountered a dialogue with the property owners, the landowners, because there are certain areas wherein certain residents or certain subdivision would file a petition to prevent the building of a specific tower because it poses a health hazard. No? It's like you have to disseminate positive information, because nowadays, if you research with the internet, you can get many information that is not acceptable and not true. No? So you have to at least educate. But with respect to property owners, like the building owners, we have not yet reached a dialogue with them.
In terms of encouraging the LGUs to come up with an ordinance limiting or having a standardized and possibly reduced rental so that telcos can start building their towers.
Maybe we could tell the LGUs, no? But as of today, we haven't had any proposal from the LGUs or from the owners. That's why this is a very good platform to speak. At least we could know we have identified the problems and solve the problems scientifically so that we could cope with our neighboring countries.
I hope we have people from the LGU also watching this session today.
Yeah, I think that those are really, I didn't really realize that people are clamoring for faster internet, but it's not just easy. It's not easy. I thought it's just the telco. but there's also a problem with regards to really the infrastructure. Number one, the cost. Number two is also the
willingness of the community.
Yes.
Yes.
So, maybe kuha na lang sa ko ha. Kuha man talk among friends.
Yes.
Actually, that's the limiting factor of why we are so behind with our peers, the Southeast Asian peers. No? Because of that infrastructure project, we have the contractors have a very hard time getting that specific area to install a tower, to build a tower. That's the limiting factor, as we can see now. So we have to solve it at least in a very scientific way.
Wow. I actually have a follow-up question on that, but I think we have a question from our viewers before because
Yes.
there's something that attorney said that, yes, again.
Yeah, same person that asked that question, actually. So I'd like to acknowledge Joe Ray from Professional Development, PMI Philippines Chapter. Thank you so much, Joe, for asking these questions. Secondly, where do you see the BPO labor cost going, specifically frontline agent salary?
Okay, we're back to... Sorry.
Where do you see the BPO labor cost going, specifically frontline agent salary?
I don't have the data, direct data. We haven't done any survey on that. But I imagine from a purely economic standpoint, of course, costs will have to be at least in tandem with the inflation. And as far as we can see, our inflation has been well in control despite the problems. No? It's still within the target of 2 to 4%. So in terms of labor costs, I think it would just be rising within that range also. I don't expect any drastic major increase or decrease. No?
To add to that, there's actually, I'd like to identify or point out as well another issue that I think are going to be affecting the industry soon. And it could also relate to cost. For example, based on our interviews, it seems like the qualifications and skills of the applicants are slowly going down. So for me as a company owner, would I be paying higher for a lower skilled mga sa applicants, right? And then now when I tried to explore more on that question, then I realized that would there be a problem in terms of education and skill matching later on, especially during this pandemic, given that I think there's already a graduate, no? Those who graduated now purely on their last year is purely online. How does that affect the quality of the new hires that we will be getting? 2 years from now, which is another school year, after this school year, there's another batch, right? It could become another year as well, okay, because of as what Bert mentioned about the vaccination rate. Even if we reach near that target, but everything will change. But what will happen to 2 years, 3 years of graduates that are a product of online, and I think for me, like in the industry side, if the skill is lower, I will not be paying higher. Okay, di man mo match. I'll pay low or based on the minimum from the industry, and then I will have to train these people and spend more on that because so that actually is something that has to be explored on, especially I remember Pert's triple helix, no? I think that's
That's the one that I forgot. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, so that actually is a really great formula that has been proven. No, the collaboration between the academe, the industry, and the government is really, really crucial. Now, if the industry is leading and if the government is also helping, what about sa academe, which is the quality of the skills might be, which in my personal opinion, slowly murag ni ubos siya gamay. It's coming down. So I don't know. I mean, it's not ako, no, but it's my question actually that maybe you can help me also answer.
Before I segue toward,
can I react to that very quickly lang? No? That's a very, very valid question, a very good question. The concern about the quality of education under this condition with the students are subjected to, you know, the pressures and the mental issues related to studying online. So quality is a real issue. I don't have the answer, but a suggestion that perhaps this may be an opportunity for the educational technology innovators to come in and come out with something to improve the learning process under the online learning condition. No? And I noticed there's quite a few already coming in, but they still need to perfect.
I just need to make mention of this one, Mike, no, because prior to the pandemic, remember, towards the end of the school year, we used to go around doing the career guidance and employment summit. However, because of the pandemic, we were not able to do that. Fortunately, I'm with like the Rotary Club of Mandawi East, and I'm also chairing the Community Relations Committee of PMAP, the People Management Association of the Philippines. We thought of coming up with a project that's going to help the education sector, because this is precisely one of the things, one of the challenges that the people managers, the HR practitioners foresaw in the future. So, like, for example, the K-12 program, right? The purpose was supposedly the trabajo, colegio, negosyo, but because of the pandemic, the education sector found it hard to send students for an immersion. So, and then the college, what now for in the engineering, the medical courses, like their OJT, their internships, right? So we did our first run last May 31, and it was a trial run with the Department of Education, Cebu City Division. We did a career guidance and employment summit, and we were able to engage the Director Sal of DepEd to do it, to have it institutionalized and do it for all of the divisions within Region 7. Unfortunately, because of time constraints, and we did not expect that reaction to engage right away, and we were not ready. We were not able to make a follow-through for the second edition, because the first edition was supposedly the launching invitation coming from the different sectors, different industries. We had banking, we had hotel, we had BPO, an NGO, and the second edition was to supposedly invite the university and TechVoc, TESDA, and the third was to facilitate the employment. And it may not be a perfect program, but that was at least an attempt to compensate or complement what was lacking or what we were not able to do because of the pandemic.
I'd like for Bert to further elaborate something, but I think Russ.
Right, just a small angle.
Like to say something.
A small angle on the labor cost. So when you have people with very specific skill sets, or when you provide those skill sets or knowledges, you don't only compete in the Philippines, but you compete on a global market. And the same technologies that enables us to work from home today also enables these people to get international opportunities in a whole different way. So even though labor costs might be in line with inflation, I'll also see that people with these very specific skill set and knowledges will be competing on a global market and not on a Filipino market.
And before I'll move to Bert, is that, I'd just like to clarify, Rasmus, is that more of a caution, or is that more of an optimism?
I mean,
Before I move to Bert,
there's great opportunities there, but
great opportunities.
as a company, you must create other incentives for people to stay in the company. You must create the shared vision and goal, and opportunities for people to perhaps stay in the Philippines instead of moving abroad and so on. So it's not only about the direct compensation, but about creating a holistic view.
And before I move to Bert, because I'm also curious, because you're in the software development field now, and a lot of our viewers would be interested also to hear about your assessment of the current talent availability now, whether it's fresh from the academe or those with previous experience. Based on your presence in the Philippines, how is our talent, and are you getting enough to cover your current and future needs?
Right, so we started recruitment 2 years ago, and since then we've grown to 60. And from a BPO perspective, 60 is, that's less. But for us, it's been a challenge to grow to 60. Especially as a new company, we don't want to target the junior or newly graduate, but we need the really senior developers to get a good start. So, but we managed to grow according to plan, despite pandemic, and to grow with the senior experience that we're looking for as well.
And thank you for providing your input specific to the software development area. And I think Mike mentioned earlier also about triple helix, and that's the part actually that I also want Bert to elaborate on now, because there has been a lot of conversation through the years about how the industry, the government, and the academe can better collaborate. And I think with the programs that we have in C.O,
the one that I forgot.
Yes, has something to do with triple helix. So can you elaborate further on that? No?
Okay. It's a fancy term for something that is really simple in terms of concept, but it's also difficult to execute. Okay. The triple helix idea basically tells us that the maximum benefit can be generated when those three parties work very well together, government, industry, and academe. No? Each of them have their basic role. Like, for example, government's role is to maintain order in the society. University's role is to develop people and generate the intellectual property. Industry's role is to produce products and services. So those are the basic roles. No? But over and above those basic roles, the three also have to play two other roles. And what are these two other roles? They have to play the role of being a customer as well to the others, and as an enabler also. Okay, so when these three in an underdeveloped country, these three do not yet work well together. But as the country become more and more developed, or as a result of the three working better together, then the country becomes more developed, then the output becomes more optimal. And we have examples. Silicon Valley is an example. South Korea is an example. Taiwan is an example. China is an example. And even Vietnam is an example. Now, the Philippines, not quite. Because, as we see, we are a very fractious country. So our organization is trying to unite the three with specific application in the projects that we are pushing. So ICT BPM projects, like the innovation projects, like the telco infrastructure rollout projects, like the decongestion projects, and so on. So those, we have pinpointed specific projects where we need the government and the academe and the industry to work very closely together, and that will be the focus of our organization. Yeah.
And we're down to our last two questions, but before I'll ask those questions, I think we have Raymond, a question from our viewers.
Yes,
okay.
This is specifically addressed to the ICT, so sorry. It's IT parks and eco zones now charging telcos connection fees for their customers. Does the ICT have jurisdiction in this practice?
I think it's more of a regulatory perspective. Now, I'm not quite aware of the details of that. I don't know if NTC has a say on regulatory charges within the PESA,
Yes,
PESA zone.
yes. We have that. We have. Actually, telecommunication companies are mandated by law to interconnect. Okay? They are mandated by law to interconnect. And we have already, I think, lowered to the price of interconnection. Can you clarify the question? So, what kind of charges are they charging for the interconnection?
It's not quite clear.
Is that a
But
internet
generally-
or mobile phone, or what kind of interconnection are you referring to?
Yeah, I think the question, if I understood it correctly, not the way to rephrase it perhaps, is that some facilities like PESA zones or some even buildings charge fees for telcos to be allowed to enter them. And in fact, I've heard cases in which some buildings or some zones will say, oh, this is exclusive to this telco because the zone might be affiliated to a particular telco. So they will not, or the building, no? So that's something that's, I don't know if NTC has that.
Actually, that's illegal. I'll tell you that's illegal. Because they could not charge an additional fee. For example, a condominium unit could not charge an additional fee for maybe the passage of an internet connection because they are in itself duly authorized by law to charge its fees. No? We have a problem like that before, and the commission decided that they could not do that except if they apply for a value-added service, so that they could provide additional service. No? If they have a vast value-added service permit, they can do that. But in the absence of that permit, they could not charge an additional fee. Because they are acting as a telecommunication companies, where in fact they are not. You cannot renegotiate or add something that you don't have the power and authority to do so. By the simplest reason that it's your property. The law does not work that way. You have to be authorized first to add an additional fee for that for connection.
Just to add a little bit, no. So that means that there might be a need to further clarify policies on that. No? At which point does the facility, as what was mentioned by Attorney Alan, will it require a VAS license? For example, if I own an IT park, for example, can I restrict access to my IT park to certain telcos that will pay me a fee to enter my park, right? So do I provide the necessary connectivity within the park? So in which case, the rule that Attorney Allen mentioned might apply. But if the telco or the provider will enter, I will charge them a fee to enter my park, that might not be covered by that rule, because the park is not acting as a telco, but rather acting as an entrance fee to their facility. So that's something that might have to be explored in terms of the regulatory framework, because that can be challenging. I've heard cases, because I have also friends in the industry complaining that they need multiple providers in their facility for redundancy and for fiber cut. They have other options, but some facilities do not. So that's something that has to be also addressed in terms of regulation. So that's a good issue, and we will try to look into that as well. Maybe raise it also at the national
that
level.
regulation, Sir Rick, should come from NTC?
Ma'am,
ICT?
actually, for example, the condominium unit could charge the telecommunication companies. That's their prerogative. But they could not charge the subscriber. Because if they charge the subscriber for the additional fee, they will be acting as if they are telecommunication companies.
So that's the way it is framed on the part of the building owner or the park owner
would have an impact on which rule will apply. So that might need a more simplified way of addressing that so it's clear to all parties. So that might be addressed, that may be addressed locally through an ordinance perhaps, but it's better addressed maybe at the national level, but that would take some time as it would require some amendments to certain laws and regulations and appreciation of our legislators, no? Because that issue might not really be an issue in a lot of other places, but just for places like Cebu, for example.
Cool. So this has been an interesting discussion, and I just checked my time, and I think we're already towards the end of our coffee discussion. So I have here my last question, and this will also require response, no, from the government. So in the forecast that was made, and this was relayed by IBPAP during the Transformation Summit, that the industry is still forecasted to continue to grow. No? And the numbers that I have here actually is, in terms of employment, it will generate about 1.5 million FTE, and this is done during the pandemic. Huh? And then also a revenue of 30 billion by 2022. So that means, in spite of the pandemic that's happening and the challenges also that's brought by the pandemic, it's still forecasted to grow. So my final question actually is, what do you think, at least from the industry perspective, are the necessary enabling conditions for this to happen? Now, because these are just forecasts. So there needs to be an enabling condition that needs to be met for this to happen. Any takers from maybe Mike? No. Any takers? I'm sorry. Any takers from the industry? Because my next question actually is the response from the government. What do you think are the necessary enabling conditions for the industry to continue to grow in spite of the pandemic?
I think
I just want to ask clarification. What's the number again? The employment, what percent?
So the employment actually is going to grow 1.5 million FTE.
For the next year?
Until 2022.
1.5 million
FTE. And then
coming from what?
I think that's coming from the previous survey of 1.3.
Yeah, from 1.3 to 1.5. So you're talking about 200,000 in 2 years?
And
200,000 in 2 years.
And then revenue-wise, I think we're somewhere 26 billion.
They usually go together roughly.
And then it's also forecasted that by 2022, it will still grow, no? Even with the pandemic, to 30 billion. So that means both in headcount and revenue, it's still forecasted to grow.
Does that translate to roughly 12% growth? 12%, which is much higher than the Everest Group forecast of 7%, 5% actually.
Mm-hmm.
So who was the forecaster for that?
This was relayed by the IBPAP during the Transformation Summit.
IBPAP.
Yes.
I have to, that's a big question. A big question. You're talking about 12%, no?
Sige.
May I?
Yes.
I will leave it up to Sir Pert for the question, but for me, a direct answer to that would be expedite vaccination. Prior to this coffee table discussion, I just had a call with key personalities in the office, and it has been a challenge. We have one site here in Cebu. We have 2 sites in Dumaguete. We have another one in Manila. Good thing through the project Balik Buhay, thankfully we are able to, vaccinate our E4 and most of our employees, and it's still ongoing. Our Negros, our Dumaguete sites, which we have 2 by the way, and still has not started the vaccination, and that has been quite a challenge. The opportunities are there, business is growing, thankfully, but we just need to have to expedite the vaccination. Otherwise, we are going 2 steps forward and then 1 step forward and then 2 steps backward. Yes, we open and close as we have cases in our offices. And good thing we have like multiple floors in the building. What of companies who only has one floor? For example, as the case of Raymond and their company, they only have like one
floor.
One floor. So what happens if they have positive cases? Do they close? Do you have a redundancy site?
So for Joey, you are still anticipating, not necessarily for this number, that there will be still growth going through the pandemic, but your enabling condition is vaccination, accelerated vaccination. How about for you, Ross?
Right, I agree on that. We must somehow get to what is usually referred to as the new normal. So learn to live with COVID, and vaccines will be part of that. But on a longer perspective, I think education, access to education, and early access to technology. The easier you get people access to quick internet or their own PC, the quicker they will get out in the market and get on the right track.
Stability.
So there's still growth, but better access to education and technology. Those are the enabling conditions.
That's right.
Mike?
Okay, so I have different answers on that question. As I like the term, what Bert mentioned about industry managers. As an industry manager, I have a different perspective. But from my advocacy standpoint, I think the answer to that, to reach 1.5, or I would be happy even higher, I share the same advocacy and vision of the ICT, which is countryside development. If we develop the countryside and bring more opportunities there, especially on the ICT area, it can contribute to a lot of jobs. Now, I've been sharing this for so many years about creating an incubation for BPOs, for grassroots or local entrepreneurs for BPOs. Just imagine if we have 5,000 incubated entrepreneurs employing at least 200 each nationwide. That could produce how much? Almost 1 million, I guess. 1 million employment. Just 5,000 incubated, taught, mentored. This is how you do it. This is how you structure it. For me, when I started my company, it was trial and error. I would say that if someone mentored me, I would have saved 5 years. From where I am now and where I started, I could have saved 5 years if someone guided me on how to do it. I just figured out, okay, this is how I do it. This is how you manage people. This is how you manage your clients. If someone guided me, I could have saved 5 years. So if we have, for example, an incubation or a hub where we train entrepreneurs who wants to go into this industry and train them, so at least they have a better batting average or a better success rate to be successful. Just imagine how many in each of that 5,000, just very minimal, 5,000 employing 200 each. That's 1 million. So I think one of the key is countryside development to reach that. And also to sustain it, I would leave it up to Pert, which is, I really like your direction where you're going, is about the innovation and incorporating the, what's the term, the higher skill.
Higher value. Yeah.
Higher value. So that's from a different perspective. So,
DJ, I'd like to refine my reaction earlier. Earlier, I was surprised by the 12%, but then I realized the 12% is really for 2 years. Therefore, on the average per year is roughly 6%. So if you're talking about 6% per year, then it's within the 5 to 7% originally forecasted by Everest, 3 to 7% originally. So it's within their original forecast. Me, as a developmental industry manager, would want to shoot beyond that, okay? We want to go to the 8 to 10% again, or even preferably 12%. How to do that? Again, the innovation. And I like the idea of Mike Cubos developing well, he's talking about the countryside. I like to refer to the grassroots, the cell, The term that I use is also the cell, because if you're talking about ecosystem, in an ecosystem, the cell is the basic unit of that ecosystem. So if that cell is strong, then making the entire ecosystem stronger is made easier, facilitated. The other way of thinking it is, if you look at the history of Japan development, for example, when the international market is weak, they make use of the domestic market to boost the industry. So in our case, okay, we've been too dependent on the multinational as a source of our business. When the growth from that end is constricted or constrained to only 3 to 7%, then the way to go beyond 7% is to develop the domestic. We know we have still a lot of needs to transform, to digitize, to apply systems to government, to even enterprises. So there's still a lot of opportunities there. And going to the countryside, going to the grassroots is a way of preparing for that bigger result later. Yeah.
So I think there's a consensus, no, that 1 year going through the pandemic, we are still anticipating growth, no? So that's grassroots development, access to vaccination, education, technology, and then there's countryside development and business incubation. So now from our government side, any interventions, no, that we are going to anticipate moving forward? No?
In my own opinion, a forecast is as good only if the country could produce such number of graduates. Okay? In my humble opinion, what I was hearing from my colleagues here, no, that you should produce a quality and educated graduates so that you could match the requirements for the BPO and ICT industry. Without that, we could not attain the forecast. For me, is the government should at least readjust or refocus their set of priorities on what graduates they are trying to produce. Otherwise, we will never reach that forecast. For example, if the government is more focused on producing more nurses, and in the forecast, we only need an additional 200,000. They should at least readjust or re-examine their system or their focus. No? If that is the growth forecast, they should provide that kind of quality and that kind of number for that forecast to come into a fruition. Otherwise, it will be a mere forecast without the help of the government.
I think to answer some of the points raised, no, I would like to answer first the first issue raised by Joey about the vaccine thing. No, we've been discussing this for so many weeks, and I do understand the frustration. And I think one of the reasons why we have, I think maybe we're better here in Cebu rather than say in Negros, for example. It's because maybe there's stronger collaboration between the business sector and the government, the local government in particular, no? Because I think at the national level, we've been very supportive to the ICT Council in Dumaguete, for example, to get it done, but there are challenges on the ground. So I think strengthening the collaboration between the ICT sector in any community, in any LGU, would really be a good way to really hit those numbers. And because as what Mike mentioned, we are also really advocating that we develop also the countryside. That's why the DICT is also investing in terms of bringing connectivity to the countryside, even in the missionary, if it were in transport, missionary routes where connectivity may not be that commercially be viable, so government is stepping in. We are trying to work with local governments as well, hopefully, especially because of the Mandana's ruling, in which they will have now more money to actually do development work. I think they'll be getting something like more than 20% increase in their share of national government revenues. They can also help build these facilities on the ground, be it telecommunications infrastructure, because it is to their benefit. They can lease this out. This can be commercial venture with private sector telcos. that they build it and the telcos can take advantage to lessen the cost, and the capex in terms of the telcos, yet also build the infrastructure needed by their community. Also, or in terms of manpower development, we've also been discussing how government can collaborate in providing training opportunities, because of the points raised earlier. Maybe the educational system has started to maybe decline, but how can we augment that to other interventions? I think that's one area where government also can step in. There's of course the new laws regarding support to startups and all that. So we collaborate with UST, DTI, and other agencies as well for that. So I think those are things that we can do, and I am quite optimistic, though cautiously optimistic, that we will be able to hit those numbers. And hopefully, like all, government has also been trying to find ways to make things do things faster, become more digital. So hopefully, while it has been trickles in the past for the vaccination, I think in the news today there are now lots of vaccines that will be made available. I think as we get to understand better practices or best practices in the vaccination process, and in fact, the DICT now is in the process rolling out, for example, vaccine certificates, so to make travel easier and all that. So I think we're very optimistic that it will be. We will. I don't think we'll ever be back to the old normal. So I think we have to live with the new normal, and I think that's really the way to go. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sir Rick. I wish we could extend this coffee table discussion, but our time is limited, and we are actually went beyond our schedule time. But at this point, I would like to request the rest of our audience online to turn on their videos so we can have a photo op. I hope
a hybrid photo op. No, this is now the new normal.
New normal, yeah.
Okay, just wait for a few seconds for the others to turn on their videos.
I would like to thank our new friends and old friends, our panelists. I'd like to thank Ross, Joey, Pert, Alan, Rick, and Mike. It's been an interesting discussion in terms of not just our challenges as an industry, but also on how we can rise forward.
And I'm positive that there will be more opportunities to address some of the questions that were not actually asked today with the celebration of our Cebu Business Month or year. So we anticipate that there will be more of this kind of activities within the year. With this, I would like to call on Mike to give us the closing remark.
I'm really grateful for our friends here. We share the same industry, we share our passion, we share the same hope for the industry, for the future of our industry. And all of these fruitful discussion this afternoon is with us sharing your insights, expertise. It's really well appreciated. With all the initiatives that we thought of, and we also talk about the challenges, I think that is really where most of the discussions we circled around. We have identified challenges about the vaccination, the education. We also talk about the forecast, the formula, the success formula, the triple helix of Kuan. So I really thank as well the CIB.O President, Bert, Tanya, and si DJ, Bert mo kasi ko. CIB.O. So thank you so much for joining us today, as well as for our online participants. So we hope that the things that we have discussed in here, whether the challenges and opportunities ahead, and the further collaboration of the triple helix, the academe, I really like the term, academe, government, and industry. As you can see here, this is how we collaborate here in Cebu. We hope that this can become a model, no, to other organizations and other LGUs, and how we collaborate and move the industry forward. I remember the days when the first call center in Cebu was only Sykes Asia. It was my first call center. DJ was our boss. Oh, DJ. Wala dito nag-abot dito. I'm not sure anymore. That was long time ago. But I'm really thankful. No? So in the BPO industry, I really saw the potential of really helping the academe, the government, and the industry. So with that as well, I am very positive that the takeaways from this event have further enhanced our knowledge and now serve as fuel for us to be more engaged in the business community and not only in our own company pursuits. Indeed, we still have plenty to reflect upon. I know there are still a lot of questions, but we don't have time anymore. But our collective contributions and actions to use these opportunities will enable us to rise together forward. We may be able to reach and establish a wider network and opportunities later on. So finally, on behalf of the Cebu Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the Cebu Business Month 2021 team, I would like to express my appreciation to all the participants, especially to the panelists. Thank you so much for your time. We truly value your presence. I would like to thank our friends from the media, the reliable CBM 2021 working team, our sponsors and partners, especially Golden Prince, and of course, Qualphone, for always being there to help the CBM, for the flawless technical support, the support that we have here. Thank you so much. So I'd like to close my remarks to officially announce the end of this afternoon's ICT BPM coffee table discussion. And I wishing the unfolding prosperity to all participants. Thank you and good afternoon.
Thank you so much, Mike. But before we all go rise and move forward with our respective time, I'd like to request Mike to help us or assist us in giving the certificate and token of appreciation to all our panelists.
And we'd like to thank our moderators for this afternoon as well. Raymond for saying yes right away, and DJ for the
Nice meeting you.
Thank you guys for the time.
Good day, passengers. This is your captain speaking once again. For the last 25 years, we at Cebu Pacific have been enabling everyone to fly. And it has been such an honor to have made a lot of travel moments with you. We have always been known to make the flight experience fun for everyone. And as the skies open once again, let us look back at our 8 shared milestones. What a great day to fly! On March 8, 1996, we made our first maiden voyage from Manila to our hometown Cebu. Then we took off for our first international flight, Manila to Hong Kong on November 22, 2001. Those were great times. Philippines, meet Piso Fair, March 2004. We pioneered the first ever Piso sale in the market. These Piso sales really made air travel more accessible for everyone. To connect more people across the archipelago, through September 2007 to 2016, we invested in high-capacity ATR turboprop aircrafts to serve islands that can only be reached by smaller planes. In 2013, we received our first and biggest aircraft, the Airbus A330, and sent it to our first long-haul flight from Manila to Dubai. Baby Haven came into this world via 5J015 Dubai to Manila, the first Seb baby born in flight. On our 20th year, we welcomed major changes, our new home, our new uniforms, and a brand new look in the skies. We even partnered with UNICEF for its Change for Good program. And last 2017, we flew our first 150 millionth passenger. Throughout our 25 years, we have celebrated countless wonderful moments with you, our dear passengers. I, your captain, together with Cebu Pacific family, can't wait to bring you back to the beautiful destinations you have missed. We're looking forward to more smiles ahead as everyone flies again.
The lines that connect us have never been this important. From the simple things that give us joy and hope, to the ones we have to accomplish. There is a need to be connected to the things we do and to the people around us. The lack of a future-ready connection is what created us. From a startup in Central Luzon to what we are now, our purpose remains the same: to make everyone's online experience better. From businesses to public institutions to your homes and the entire country, we believe that digitalizing the Philippines empowers the people. We work hard to power micro, small, medium, and large-scale businesses to allow them to maximize their productivity with the latest broadband technology that fits their needs, to better connect them to their audiences and customers. Because we know the value of what education brings to every Filipino. Together with the Department of Education and local governments, we are connecting schools to teachers and teachers to all their students. Providing reliable and fast internet. This helps build the future of the youth and the nation. Converge is empowering every Filipino household as the home becomes the school, the workplace, and the marketplace in one. With its pure fiber connection, Converge offers speed, stability, and reliability to meet the evolving needs of its residential customers, providing the best experience for their work from home, online classes, news and information needs, to seamless entertainment consumption, such as social media, movie streaming, music, sports, and gaming. Our customers' experience is at the forefront of our success. Going beyond their connectivity, we lead the way in product innovation, customer response, digital infrastructure, and network improvements. Because more than the connection, we empower. We empower you, the businesses that fill your needs, and the country's. We are focused in providing all our customers the best of what the internet has to offer, with true high-speed, pure end-to-end fiber connectivity. And we are making it available to every Filipino. Breaking into an already established industry, it is the passion of our people to bring fresh innovations to Filipinos that sets us apart. The Philippines' need for better internet is evident by our exponential and unrivaled growth, boosting us to have one of the biggest IPOs in the country and transforming us into a world-class broadband provider with the Filipino consumer in mind. With our unparalleled growth, we set our sights on interconnecting the entire country, now linking Visayas and Mindanao to our domestic fiber backbone. To connect the unserved and underserved areas in the country, this lives in the fiber of how Converge came to be. Knowing how essential connectivity is today and in the future, we're not just making stable connections available to more Filipinos. We are giving them the lifeline they need and deserve. Now, the way we connect has never been this powerful. With everything we do in our lives, the world is becoming more and more connected. Converge provides more than just fiber internet. We give the lifeline for a future-ready nation.
It starts with a cause, a purpose, a dream. To do more, to be more. In the face of adversity, do we break down, or should we break through? Should we be different, or strive to make a difference? We rock. We have the power to create a better world, one step at a time. This is our revolution. I'm Juan Miguel Javier, an IT director, a farmer, and a rock star by heart. I am unbreakable.
Here's a warm hello from Eastern Communications. We're here to present a refreshing point of view that when it comes to delivering business communication solutions, it's time to bring back the human connection. As we do all we can to offer technology that is always solid and reliable, we never lose sight of our brand of personalized customer service. It's a connection that is both high-tech and high-touch. That's our strong connection. We are Eastern Communications.
We are an organization intensive in youth, in desires, and in a commitment to take great steps to live the values that unite us. We are a company that listens to a mission and has decided to respond daily to the call. We are Qualphone, establishing a welcoming and respectful workplace that affirms the dignity of each person, fostering the spirituality and unique contributions of each individual through our Mission at Work programs. Communication at Work promotes an open communication based on respect, mutual trust, and the understanding of the mission, values, and plans of Qualphone. Learn at Work. Support employees through career development classes. Care at Work. Support an environment where the person trusts and support each other in a caring second family manner. But making people's lives better goes beyond employees. It also refers to employees' families and our communications through our Give at Work program. We support charities and establishments that provide assistance to the underprivileged. And Fun at Work, to keep our employees engaged through fun activities. Our mission is our call, and we share it with you so that our Strive's values will be an explicit, concrete, and visible commitment to serve and love others. In order to be the best BPO, we make people's lives better.
At Vivant, we embrace change because we know that to succeed, we need to be a strong partner, a partner who takes the time to listen and provide solutions that benefit everyone. Vivant's growth throughout the energy sector is a testament to our strategic relationship and our ability to adapt to a changing world. As we expand beyond power, our business model of foresight, cooperation, and adaptability will always push us forward. Vivant, solutions for a changing world.
Ako si Arnold Dasis, ang may-ari ng Arnet Agrimarts. At ito ang diskarte ko. One-stop shop kami for all gardening and farming needs. Nagbebenta kami ng pots, fertilizers, seeds, and greenhouse materials. Actually, before Lazada, I have to travel a lot to meet distributor kasi kailangan mo silang puntahan para makabenta ka. So, malimit, malayo ako sa pamilya ko. And kailan talaga doble-doble yung effort mo para makabenta ka lang. Actually, hindi rin naman ako techie eh. So, wala rin ako masyadong alam sa online. And yun yung maganda kay Lazada kasi marami siyang tools. Nandyan yung Lazada University para lahat ng kailangan mong malaman, madali mong matututunan. And nandyan din yung community of sellers na very much willing tumulong lalo na sa mga bagong sellers. Hindi lang basta nakabawi yung business namin, mas lumaki pa siya ngayon. At kahit mas malaki siya ngayon, mas magaan yung trabaho namin kasi online na lahat. Huwag kayong matakot matuto at sumubok ng bago kasi andyan naman sa Lazada lahat ng kailangan nyo para mag-succeed ang business nyo. Lahat naman siguro tayo nakakapa sa sitwasyon natin ngayon. Pero sa halip na tingnan natin ito bilang problema, maganda siguro, tingnan natin bilang opportunity upang mag-adapt at mag-evolve sa pagpapalaganap ng e-commerce sa Pilipinas. Kasi kung kaya ko, kaya nyo rin.
Lazada.
They don't want. If we get everyone else vaccinated, 70% yung natawag na herd immunity, maprotektahan yung 30% na hindi magpabakuna. Oo.
Diyan ang paglaom, sudungang kaugmaon sa kanaw-kanaw. Sugantang pagbangon, dungan natong sugato na bagong adlaw. Karon ang panahon, busa magpabakuna ta. Kini ang pagpanggata sa usag-usag. Padayon usa ka komunidad kontra sa COVID man pabakuna. Di na nato dugayo, di na panumbalingon na kabala ka. Natong pandayon ang nangagunom nga mga dambuta. Mabalik pa ang tanan kung magkaiyos sa pusa. Magpabakuna ta, hindi ang pagpanggata sa usag-usag. Padayon usa ka komunidad kontra sa COVID man pabakuna.
Invite na po ang mga tao nga magpabaksin sila.
I encourage everyone to get vaccinated.
Invite mo tanan nga to take the opportunity to have a vaccine. Free ta tanan sa worries or sa anxiety na to sa about this pandemic which is the COVID-19.
The best vaccine is the one that is available.
Diyan ang paglaom, sudungang kaugmaon ta. Higala busa magpabakuna ta.
Now that we have the vaccines here, please do avail of the vaccine to end this pandemic.
golden prince. Experience the golden brand of hospitality. Oh, at a golden prince, you'll always feel the royal pampering reserved for you. Ginawa nung yun is a golden prince hotel.
Good day, passengers. This is your captain speaking.